We're joined now by a congressional candidate running in the Democratic primary for Ohio's 10th district, Eric Moyer. Welcome to the Damage Report.
Hi, John.
Glad to have you here. I'm excited to learn more about your race, about the district. And so for those of us, those who are watching this video who might not be familiar with you, what is your background? How did you make the decision to run in Ohio's 10th district?
So I grew up in the district and I went to Ohio State to become an engineer. And then when I left Ohio State, I looked for a job in my district and it was hard to find one. And I went to my fallback job. I became a scientist at NASA and I was there for—
That's your fallback job.
Well, it was the only one I could find, but it was a good one. Yeah, it was a good one. So I was there for several years and I was working in the space biology department and yeah, and I eventually made my way back to the district and didn't like what I was seeing in the national politics. And I thought I'd throw myself out there. And, you know, we've seen normal people all over the country, from bartenders to teachers to nurses, winning. And I thought, well, we need more scientists in office, so why not give it a try?
So let's start there, because you know, when we think generally about people who end up as representatives or senators, a lot of them are lawyers, some doctors, some businessmen, but there do not seem to be a lot of scientists. What do you think that having a background in science would help? What would you bring to the role based on your experience?
Well, the biggest thing is that I'm familiar with understanding facts and data, and when they release government reports and, you know, like the climate report, I understand the science that went behind it, and I can be an advocate for the people who created the reports and to effectively communicate the stuff that's in there. So we just need people who understand technical details, and we can go forward with that.
Okay, so let's talk about that first area then. It's certainly something, climate change is something that's very much in the news these days. The fires are still burning in Australia. So in that area, if you make it into Congress, what would you like to be involved in? How would you respond to this crisis?
Well, there's a youth movement now that's pushing forward the Green New Deal, and I'm definitely on that train. I think that it's important to innovate in the future of green energy and ways that we can improve the future of our planet for generations to come, but also to clean up some of the messes in the past. So, for example, the EPA Superfund sites, which is what the EPA has designated as hazardous waste sites, there's 8 of them in our district alone, and there's 38 in the state of Ohio, and these have been there for decades and have not been cleaned up. So one of my things that I'm running on is cleaning up the messes we've already made and putting that behind us.
You know, and that is not something that I often hear congressional candidates talking about, but for the people living in those areas, I'm sure that's long overdue that they've been wanting some sort of advocacy in that area. Now, tell us a little bit about the district itself. It's passed politically. What is it like?
So it's a district that's the biggest city is Dayton, Ohio, but there's a lot of suburbs outside of that, and there's some rural areas as well. And you know, President Obama won here, and Senator Sherrod Brown won here, and it's a very competitive district. But for whatever reason, the incumbent Congressman Mike Turner has been in office for 17 years now and hasn't really been close in his races. You know,
that is really interesting, because it had at the state and at the national level has gone for the Democrats multiple times. Trump apparently did win in 2016 in the district, but by a very small margin, just 0.73%. So what is it about Mike Turner? Why has he been able to sort of dodge this trend in the district? And how would you describe what he's done for the district over the past 17 years?
Well, if you recall, the Dayton shooting happened, and he came out and he said, well, I'm for some gun reform, and then he did absolutely nothing on it. He voted against the House bill, and that was for the background checks, the House Bill 8. And so he has made a career of—
Okay, it sounds like we might be having some connection difficulties. Let's give it just a few seconds to see if we might be able to reconnect with Eric. We want to learn a little bit more about his platform. No, sounds like unfortunately not. Okay, well that is unfortunate, but thankfully we were able to learn a little bit about Eric Moyer's background, some of his platform, and also the opposition that he faces. With a very close district, split very close between Democrats and Republicans. This is one of those districts that I imagine the Democratic Party is going to be very closely focused on. It's an area where clearly Democrats have been able to win at the state and national level. And so take a look at Eric's website. You can learn a little bit more about him. We've got some information visible there. And we're gonna try to get in touch with Eric again and maybe finish our conversation at a later date. Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.